All right, it looks like we are definitely live. I'm excited to be here and to definitely have this opportunity to share this topic with you that I'm going to be sharing today. So, when you do come in, feel free to just let me know where it is that you are watching from. I am excited that you're joining me live. If you are, in fact, joining me live, and certainly hello to those of you that are watching via the replay. My name is Rhonda M. Jordan, and today I'm going to be sharing with you a topic that I think is very timely simply because we're going to be talking about, what we now can do now that, at least in the Northern Hemisphere here, summer starting to wind down. Most of the kids, if not all of them, are back in school at this point. And so now it's time for us to refocus, re engage, and really make a good run toward meeting our business goals for the rest of this year. So feel free as you come in to say hello. Just let me know where it is that you're watching from, if in fact you are here with me live. Now, I always encourage people when they're on with me to have a notepad and paper, pen, whatever it is that you take notes with, cell phone, some kind of way to take notes. Hi, Zay, how are you? Good to have you here. So I always encourage you to definitely have something to take notes with because I can assure you this information combined with the last 2 weeks of topics that we've covered are going to be extremely beneficial. One of the things I want to share with you, and I will link it in the description box after this video concludes, is I want you to go back and watch the two videos that preceded this one, but I definitely want you to watch this one to understand how the three of them are going to work together. See, today we're going to talk content strategy. We talked in the previous two videos about achieving our goals, profit goals, that is, through either affiliate marketing or creating your own digital product and having it ready to go for fourth quarter. But here's what I want you to also be aware of. Um, oh, that's okay. You know what? Lots of us are behind on our content. And so don't feel in any way, shape, or form like you're behind because the good thing about it is you, after watching this information and a couple of other things I'm going to share with you, you're going to be able to catch up and be well on your way to getting things done. So don't worry about that at all. But as I said, these things are going to work together because it's great to have your products in place. And if you're going to go the route of using affiliate marketing to build your business, that's wonderful as well. But I'll tell you what's even better is when you have not only your existing audience that's watching you, but the opportunity to bring new people who are interested in the type of content and also products that you will create who are coming into your world. And that's what this is all about. What we're going to talk today about is getting kind of like think of it as fishing. And if you had one fishing rod in the water, you could catch, one fish at a time. But if you had multiple fishing rods in the water, you could catch a whole lot more fish. So today I'm going to be teaching you how you can set up some of those fishing rods so you can catch as many people as possible. Because here's why I want you to really be aware of what this topic is going to do for you. See, there are a lot of individuals right now who are looking for an opportunity to make more money, and some are looking to learn new skills. So, again, if you teach something that maybe it's calligraphy or something you teach, and I always like to make sure that people understand the type of content that I teach, it's not focused solely on it being in the online business, making money type of world. If you have a skill, this works just as well for that also. So I want to give me 1 second. I need to turn one more light on. Just realized I'm missing a light there. All right, sorry about that. That helps to light the background a little bit more. Okay, so what I wanted to say was it doesn't matter what you teach. what you share, what it is. All of this is going to work for you. So what you're going to be doing is getting out to the people that potentially are interested in your in your whatever it is you do, and you're going to do that through content creation. Now, let me share with you, because I teach a framework called the Road Map to Profit, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that later on. But what I want you to understand is this: when I was first getting started, I would be on calls or live streams or trainings, and the person who was teaching it was always, which they usually are, a few steps ahead of me. Some of them many steps ahead of me. And they would always say, go back and talk to your audience. Ask your audience about this. Poll your audience. Do that. Well, at that time, I didn't have an audience. So I'm thinking, well, what I need to be learning is how to grow an audience. I need to learn how to attract people into my world. And so I always like to start from that concept, because there are lots of people that just don't have an audience and don't know how to build one. And so I'm going to be showing you not only how to engage with an audience you might have, but how to bring more people into your world. And the way you do that is with a great content strategy. Now, let's talk content strategy, because one of the first things that you have to do, of course, is you've got to decide on your niche and your ideal customer. I'm assuming you've already figured that out. And if not, I will link something below that will teach you how to figure that out. So once you have done that, now what I want you to focus on are, what are your content pillars? Content pillars are going to be the topics that you are going to talk about on a regular basis that are of interest to your audience, to your ideal customer. Those are the 4 topics. So let me give you an example of my ideal customer. First of all, I call her Nicole. I've written it out. I know who she is, which is why I'm able to create content that connects directly with my audience. Next thing, what does she need to know? And what is it that she's interested in doing? Well, she has a full-time job. She makes a good living, but she wants to start thinking about transitioning out of that. This is how detailed you have to get with it. So I know that she wants to learn to create digital products and courses in order to generate the income that will allow her to eventually transition away from her job. So what types of things does she need to know? Well, she needs to know how to create content that's going to attract an audience. She needs to know how to create and sell digital products. She needs to know how to create an email list. She also needs to know things such as, for example, if she wants to also compile or bring in other products that she can share with her audience, then she needs to understand how she can earn additional income via affiliate marketing. So my content pillars: digital products, how to create and sell them, content creation, email marketing, affiliate marketing. So hopefully you get the gist. You've got to figure out what your content pillars are based upon who your ideal customer is. And that is how you're going to be creating content. You're going to create content that is going to fit into those content pillars, and it needs to be something that is going to help you pull in more people into your audience. Let me know if that makes sense to you. Also, let me know if in fact you have decided what your content pillars are. Might be a new concept to you, it might not be. But what I find with a lot of people is they know what it is, that they know who their ideal customer is, but they have not narrowed down their content pillars. And I'm telling you, if you don't take the time to narrow down your content pillars, you are in fact just going to be creating content that is all over the board, and that's not going to be an effective strategy for you. Okay. All right. So let's talk now. Let me get back to my notes. I always come prepared with my notes, and I'm probably ahead of myself, but I wanted to make sure that I got those out there. All right. So as I mentioned, if you don't have a content plan, then your content is going to be so random and all over the place. And the people that do find you, they're not going to know whether or not you are potentially the guide for them, the person that could help them get get from where they are to where they want to be. So you've got to really zero in on that. And then your content has to be very clear of who it is that you're attracting. So, for example, with me, I'm looking to attract people that are mostly women are in my audience, but don't get me wrong, there are lots of men in my audience as well. And the same is going to be true for you, but mostly women who are 45 and over, who are still working in corporate America and looking, they're working a job. Let me say it that way, because my audience, again, is not even just in the US, but they're working a job and they're looking how to get out of it. You have to know who that person is so that the content you create is going to appeal to them. Now, since I know who my audience is, I have to talk about things that will be of interest to them. So, for example, even the images that I tend to use images that are going to appeal to someone who's 45 and older. That's, if you see some of my content, you'll definitely see that. I use myself in a lot of those images as well. I also am appealing to someone who is a beginner. So I'm not talking to an individual that has been creating digital products for, 10 years. That's not my audience. So when I'm talking, that's why I talk about strategies such as how to build from scratch, build an audience from scratch, and so forth. So what I'm saying to you is get very clear on who your ICA is, get very clear on what their struggles are so you can narrow down your content pillars. All right. Now, the next thing is you have to let people into your world, because one of the things that's going to be critical is you have to build the know, like, and trust factors with people. Why? Because if the know, like, and trust factors are not in place, people are not going to be connected to you. So they're not going to like or subscribe or follow, depending on the platform that you're on. And they're certainly not going to buy any products that you might create. So how do you build the know, like, and trust factor? As I mentioned, you let people into your world. You let them know the types of things that you enjoy doing. You let them know what your style of teaching is. You let them know, for example, that they're important to you. It can't be that the only thing you ever talk about is how you're going to make money from your audience. That's the fastest way to turn people off, which is why you can't constantly promote your products. So another thing that you can do too is you can let people know by showing them, for example, successes that you've had. So now they can begin to trust you. They can determine whether or not they like you. And if those factors are in place, you 9 times out of 10 have somebody that's not only going to be an audience member, someone in your audience, but when you start launching products, they're more likely to buy from you, okay? Now, another thing that you want to do is, as you are creating content, and specifically within your content pillars, the other thing you want to do is make sure that that content naturally can lead to one of your digital products, or product that you're actually creating for them, or a course, or whatever it is. So that's why you have to sit down and strategically map everything out. So let's say, for example, and I'm picking topics off the top of my head, so bear with me as I go through this. But let's say, for example, that let's use that calligraphy example that I talked about. So you could, for example, talk to them in your content that you create about, I don't know, different type of paper that you might use, or different types of strokes. And so perhaps one of the things you could do is create a short video where you demonstrate one of the strokes. I don't know much about calligraphy if you haven't figured that out, but you could show them how to do that. You could offer, for example, as a lead magnet, you could actually offer a workshop as your lead magnet, or a master class where you teach, 3 of the basic strokes that are going to be necessary to master calligraphy. I don't know, something along those lines. So just kind of understand that everything has to strategically work together. So now that you've taught that, in a master class, let's say, and you have a paid product, maybe you have a course or a mini course that shows them, what it is that they can do to really master calligraphy in 30 days, like a strategy session or something along that lines that you actually are going to be offering them. All I'm saying is just make sure everything that you're doing can lead to a product that you're creating and that it is something that they're going to be interested in. All right. Okay. Now, let's talk about the types of content that you are going to be creating. I'm going to give you I'm going to give you about 5 different types. I think I got about 5 different ones that I want to share with you. And again, if you have any questions as we're going through this, then by all means, jot those questions into the comment section and I'll answer them as we go through. Now, I like to teach a framework called the 5 E's. And these are the types of content that you want to create. You want to create content that is empowering. So, letting them know you can do this. This is, it's something you absolutely can do. And you might even take it and, put it together with maybe a story of your own of something where you struggled and you were able to overcome it. Another thing is going to be encouraging type of content. And that's in many ways how that might differ from empowering is as people are building businesses or learning a new skill, if that's what they're doing, they're going to naturally run into something that's going to make them struggle. And so, what you want to also do is have content that's going to encourage them. Hey, it was challenging for me in the beginning, but I was able to overcome it, and this is how I did it. So think of it as another strategy of types of content that you can create. Another thing, and this one's going to be important, is engaging content. And this is where you can almost have your audience or people that are looking to join your audience help you decide what type of content to create. What is engaging content? That's where you're going to do things like polls. So let's say, for example, you're considering creating 4 different types of digital products because they all fall within your content pillars. You could actually create something, a poll, that says, I'm working on my next product. I'm brainstorming at this point, and I'd like your input as to which of these types of products you would actually, or topics you'd like to learn. And then you could list out 3 or 4 different topics. And now what you can do is get some evidence from your audience members as to which one makes the most sense. You might find that, it's evenly distributed. Hopefully something will rise to the top, but if it's evenly distributed as to what they want to learn, then it's kind of up to you at that point. But if you start to see that they're saying, I definitely want to learn number 1, or I definitely want to learn number 2. Well, if a good percentage of your audience is telling you that's what they want to learn, then that's probably the product that you should create. And you should probably also create more content around that. All right, now entertaining type content. Entertaining type content is just something that's going to lighten the mood, something that's going to make them laugh, something that's going to make them feel better, something that's going to, make them smile. So you want to incorporate that into your overall content strategy as well. And then by all means, and this is where I want you to spend a good percentage of your time, it's on creating educational content where you're teaching them something. So that could be where you're giving strategies, where you're teaching or giving tips, or where you're teaching a specific piece of content, something that could kind of help them. So the goal is for you to at least spend time within these areas, but by all means, spend the vast majority of your time in the educational side of things. Because if you use the educational side, you're going to draw in a larger audience. And the reason for it is think of the number of people who are going to the search bar, Google, YouTube, wherever it is, and they're typing in, how do I do X, Y, and Z? So let's say, for example, going back to my calligraphy example, that someone is trying to learn what supplies they need in order to learn calligraphy. So you might have a post that talks about, the 3 best supplies for someone who is new to calligraphy. So that could bring people into your world. That's why that educational content is so important. And this is the time, as I mentioned, since we're going to really start focusing on creating our products, latter part of this month, early part of October, this is our time to do research, our, recon phase, if you will. So we're bringing people into our world, we're finding out about them, we're understanding what they want, and then we can start creating our products. All right. Now, another thing I want you to do is not only double down on that educational content, but I also want you, and I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. I also want you to create evergreen content. Evergreen content is the type of content that's going to be relevant today, tomorrow, and next year. And that's the type of content that I tend to spend a lot of time on because it's the content that people are continuously searching for. So I want you to have a fair amount of evergreen content in your group or whatever it is, your bank of content that you're creating. So think about the things that are going to be relevant whether people are searching for it today or if they're searching for it next year or the year after. I can tell you that from some of my YouTube videos that I've created, I have videos from 2 years ago that people are continuously watching. And I wouldn't say, I'm sorry, not continuously watching, but new people are coming in and starting to watch that. And it's because the content is evergreen. It's relevant to them regardless of when it is that they're going to watch. So make sure that you are using that. And then the next thing I want you to do is I want you to go back to content that you've created from earlier this year, and I want you to figure out what you can reuse, and I want you to figure out what you can repurpose. The reason for it is I don't want you to constantly be in the mode of having to create content. You probably have some really good stuff that performed well, or you might have some stuff that's sitting on your computer or tablet, wherever you create content, that for whatever reason you have not released and it's just sitting there collecting what I like to call digital dust. Well, that's not helping anybody. So, we all have been guilty of that where we've created something and then we weren't quite sure whether or not it was good enough, so we didn't put it out there. Any of that content you've created, it's fair game now. Here's the worst thing that can happen. People will not respond to it, and that's okay. The other thing I want you to also be aware of is you have to remember that because sometimes people are afraid to reuse content because they're afraid their audience has seen it before. Maybe they have. But what I want you to know is when you look at content that you have created and shared, only 3 to 4% of your audience has seen the content at any given time, which is kind of crazy. But based upon the way the algorithms work on different platforms, don't think everybody in your audience is seeing your content. That's just not accurate. Here's a few reasons for that. One, a lot of people don't go on those platforms every single day. Two, if the content doesn't perform well out of the gate, a lot of times the platform that you shared it on will stop pushing it, which means even fewer people are going to see it. And then the other thing is based upon how the algorithms continue to work, it's very possible that you post something, but other more popular things from other creators are performing better. And so yours just gets pushed further down. That's why I don't want you to ever think you cannot reuse or reshare content you've used in the past. Another thing I want you to also focus on during this time as part of your content strategy is I want you to pick one platform that you're going to share content on. Just one. And the reason for that is if I look at most of my audience, and you may fall into this category, they're solopreneurs, which means they don't have a team. And if you don't have a team, you don't have enough resources, let's say it that way, in order to share content on 5 different platforms. And what's going to then happen is, if you're trying to do that, you're going to become very inconsistent. And the minute you become inconsistent, again, the algorithms are not going to reward you by continuing to push your content out. So pick one platform that you are going to use as your main way of creating content and getting it out there. For me, that platform is YouTube. Now, do I have a Facebook page and an Instagram account and a Threads account? Absolutely, I do. But the only place that you will see me consistently, the only place I'm really posting content is on YouTube. Now, I just recently, and I want to share this because some of you may be watching this on Facebook. I just recently changed my settings for I'm sorry here. I just recently changed my settings so that people who are watching or are in on my Facebook page can actually begin the process of watching me there. But all I'm doing is just live streaming into two different places. If you go to my Facebook business page, you're not going to see me creating content on a regular basis because I just don't do that. So I definitely want you to do that. Let me just make sure. All right. I'm going to take a drink of water. If you have any questions, like I said, drop those in. And if you need clarification on anything, put that in as well. Okay. All right. Now, the next thing, so we've talked about, the 5 E's. We also talked about educational content being the one you're going to really focus on. And we talked about evergreen content. Now, the next thing, and let me go back one more way. That what we just talked about is going to really bring more people in, people that don't currently know you. That's going to bring them into your audience. Now, what I want to talk about is how to re-engage your existing audience if you have one. Let's think about it this way. For many people, they're coming off of the summer. People have been on vacation. The kids have been home. They've been, visiting with family. They've just been off their regular schedule. And because they've been off their regular schedule, going on and learning new tasks or, learning new skills or whatever has just not, for a lot of people, been on their radar. But now that the kids are back in school, now that they're in a better routine, many people are ready to re-engage. So what's the best way to do that? Share tips. Again, quick wins that people can get to. So perhaps you might say, this week I'm going to be sharing one tip per day. And it doesn't necessarily have to be one tip per day. It could be, a tip today. You could do a short form video the next day, which also has a tip built into it somewhere. You could do a regular post where you maybe incorporate a story and then, the moral of the story type thing. You can mix it up, but tips are a great way to bring people in. Another thing that you can do is, just your overall insights, because there are going to be people that have been struggling with something. And it might be something you have figured out how to do where you can say, oh, once I started doing X, Y, and Z, then this happened. And it might be the answer to what they were, what they were struggling with. So now you're re-engaging your audience because maybe they kind of, left things to be at a point of time and they said, I'll get back to that later. And now it's later. Now they're ready to go. So your insights can definitely do that. Another thing is letting people know, and I kind of said that to Zay earlier, which is it's okay. We all fall off the wagon. We all get behind. That is okay. So let people know it's okay. Now it's just time to re-engage. So here are the things I would do to get back on the wagon, so to speak, to make sure that you're headed the direction you want to go. And you could share some insight around that. All right. Now, other things that will engage your audience, because remember, these are people that know you. They followed you at some point or they subscribed to your channel or, whatever it is. So now what you can do is start to share, for example, some behind the scenes pictures or posts. Take a picture of your desk, take a picture of something that you're currently working on, take a picture of, where you're at, and just simply say, something's coming. or I'm in the trenches working on something that I think is really going to help you. And what that's going to do is again re-engage them because now they're waiting for whatever it is that you're working on. Another thing that you can do is share stories, and one of the ways that you can share stories would be incorporating into that story something that somehow is going to help them. Okay, so you can. I was trying to remember the story that someone shared recently. I- somebody's email list that I'm on, and essentially she shared this story, and it was so random, but you're engrossed in this story because it was a good story. And then she gets to the point where she says, "Oh, and by the way, oh, I know what it was." She shared the fact that she was out on a walk in her neighborhood, which she loves to do. And she was talking about the different things she was seeing. And then she says, "Oh, and by the way, I saw this coyote." And then she comes away from the story and she says, and it scared me. And that's the way a lot of you feel. That's the way I feel sometimes, where I'm just terrified. And we make up these things in our head. This is all part of her email that she was incorporating into it. And then she says, and then all of a sudden the coyote ran away. And there was never anything that happened, but she was saying, and her message was, oftentimes, we will make things up in our brains that are much scarier than they really are, or we worry and there's really no reason to. So you had to kind of read the email, but I'm just saying, incorporating stories and somehow stories from your personal life or stories you've heard, and then somehow coming back and saying, well, this is how you can overcome that, or this is how I dealt with it. So, stories are a great way because people love a good story. And I started incorporating stories into for example, my email messages probably about a year ago. And what I noticed is that my open rate is even higher. They're getting all the way to the bottom, which is typically where I have like links to, for example, my live streams and so forth. So I just want you to know that those types of things actually work. All right. And then, invite people into the conversation. If you are posting something on social media or if you're using the YouTube community page, ask people for their opinions. Ask them to comment. Ask them how they handle things. Ask them, for example, what tools, if you're doing a post on, let's say, business tools, and you say, these are my 5 favorite tools, then you might even say, are there any tools that you're using that you'd like to share? Maybe something I could benefit from learning about that tool. Another thing you can do is if you're writing something out, you can always say, and this works better, I think, when you are using your email list. But for example, if there is a button that you can put in, or just simply tell them to reply, saying, if you're struggling with something, click reply and let me know. Perhaps it's something that I can help you with. And so there are all sorts of ways to get people to engage with you. So again, to tell you what those were, sharing tips and insights, encouraging people, sharing behind the scenes content, doing polls, sharing stories, all of those are great ways. And then, of course, asking people to comment or reply and sharing their perspective on things. So, oftentimes, too, when you encourage people to comment, and this happens on my YouTube videos a lot, when people are commenting, they're actually sharing with me things they're struggling with, and then I can turn around and turn that into a piece of content. And the reason why I like to do that, and why you should consider doing that as well, is if one person is struggling with it, it's a very good possibility that others who are seeing your content are struggling with that as well. So, that one piece of content that you think is only going to help that one person is likely to help a lot of people that are in your audience. Okay. All right. Now, the next thing I want you to do as we are talking about, re-engaging and, this content strategy, and I cannot say this enough, is I really need you to work on growing your email list. If you have not yet started, it's time to get started right now. And the way that you're going to grow your email list is you're going to create a lead magnet of some sort. And I'll also link that below where I did a live stream probably a little over a month ago on a couple different types of lead magnets that you can incorporate. But what you're going to do is create a lead magnet that addresses one problem and one problem only. Okay. And then you're going to put it together. Now, putting it together might be, a short guide. And when I say a short guide, it could be 5 pages, it could be a checklist, it could be a master class. Now, I would say this, if this is your very first one, and you're really not comfortable on video, doing a masterclass might not be the way you should go. Perhaps you should just focus on a PDF format, the ebook, the guide, or something along those lines. But keep it something that is something easy to create, something you could almost create in a weekend or a few days. Don't be uncomfortable incorporating the use of Chat GPT or Gemini. Now, I'm not saying that that should write all of your content, but use it to help you get ideas of what your audience is struggling with, and then ask it to outline it. And then you take over from there and add the Eunice into whatever that ebook or guide or whatever it is that you're going to create. Now that you have that, you start promoting it. You start letting people know that it's out there. Why are you doing that? Because that is going to be the thing that's going to get people onto your email list. Now, I'll also link below a video that I did that shows you how to set up a landing page. And a landing page is nothing more than a picture of whatever your digital product is that you're offering or your lead magnet, and a place for people to get it by entering their perhaps first name and their email address. And what happens is they enter that, and in exchange for their email address, you're giving them whatever your lead magnet is. The process is automated. The system that I recommend to people is completely free to use up to about 2,000 subscribers, I think it is. So it's something that honestly you could watch the video and start setting up right away. Why is it important for you to build your email list? Because if your goal is to ultimately sell digital products, well, the best way to sell it is through a warm audience. The warm audience is your email list. Why is your email list warm? Because every week you're going to pick a day, you're going to stick to that day, and you are going to send out an email message to them where you are giving them tips and strategies, and you're teaching concepts. And it doesn't have to be something that's super long. It could be, 400 words. Why are you doing that? Because you're building that relationship with them. You're nurturing that relationship. So when it does come time for you to sell, you've already warmed them up. And that's the group of people that are going to be more likely to actually buy your digital products. So let me circle back. It is time for you, if you have not done it, to start building your email list. And if you've built an email list, but you're not communicating with them, which I find a lot of people are doing that. They just have this list of emails, but they're not connecting with them. It's time to start connecting with them. And, just think about, for example, some of the emails that you've received that have been helpful to you. That's the type of content that you're going to incorporate into your your email messages. So again, pick a date, pick a time. I always say my email messages go out on Tuesday mornings at 6:05 a.m. Eastern time, and that's simply because I've played with lots of different times and days of the week, and that just seems to work for my audience. That may not work for your audience. So you're going to also have to do that as well. So while we're growing this email list, remember, if we are really prepping for fourth quarter, and that's going to be the launch of our product because people are buying during that time. You've got an entire month to create content and then start encouraging these folks to, get your lead magnet to get them on your email list so you have people that you're communicating with regularly. All right. So do me a favor. If you, in fact, have started growing your email list, just let me know in the comments section if, in fact, you've done that or if it's something that you plan to start. So, because I really want you to grow your email list. That is the place that is going to do wonders for you. And if you don't know this, email marketing to your audience is 40 times more effective than anything else. So, all that time you're spending posting on Instagram or Facebook or wherever, you're going to get 40 times the results if you are using email, let's say to sell a product or something along those lines. All right. Now, the next thing that I want you to do is to also remember all of the content that you're creating, it should somehow naturally lead into your lead magnet. And here's the thing I also want you to think about. When you create this lead magnet, I want you to create one. I don't want you at this point to focus on trying to create 3 or 4 or one lead magnet for each of your areas of focus. I don't want you to do that, your content pillars. I want you to focus on one because what I've found is the more you can really focus in on something, the better at it you can get. And so, just focus on getting that one lead magnet created and ready for distribution and then promoting that by leading people into it. So let's go back to that calligraphy example. If you are creating tips, then you could say to people, hey, I put together a guide that is going to give you a lot of the supplies that would be helpful for somebody who's beginning to learn calligraphy. I have a link below where you can get a free copy of that guide, and I hope you'll go ahead and grab it. So, just share things that will naturally lead into people knowing about your guide or whatever it is that you're created as a lead magnet, and then making sure people are aware of it. Okay, that's how you're going to get people on your email list. Okay, now the next thing, let's see here. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything on that, is to make sure that you are sharing your call to action. And your call to action is just simply a click the link. It's an instruction of what to do next. That's the best way for me to describe a call to action. So when I said, if you want to learn and get a copy of that guide, there's a link in the description. Go ahead, fill out your the quick form, and the guide will be on its way to you. So when I said it's in the description, click on it and put in your information, that's a call to action. Another thing is, you want to make sure that that call to action is getting shared on a regular basis. You could put it as a link in your bio, for example. That would be another way that you could do it. So just think about how you're going to continuously bring people into your world by sharing things that you know that they're interested in. So your content strategy has to be really tight. Now, here's the other thing I want to say, if I haven't mentioned this already, is when you are creating content, let's say, for example, this is the month of September as we're watching this live. If you're creating content today, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you resharing that content, let's say in November, because of what I talked about earlier, where a very small percentage of your audience is even seeing your content. And the reason why you want to do that is, again, you do not want to be on the content creation hamster wheel. You want to bank your content, which means if you shared it, make sure it's somewhere where you can reshare it at a later time. And so this is another way too that you're going to be able to take breaks when you need to, because you've created all this content and you just turn around and schedule it and reshare it at a later time. Doing that is going to save you an awful lot of time. And let me tell you something. Do I do it? I absolutely do it, because there's no point in you letting perfectly good content only get shared one time. All right. Okay. now let's go ahead and let's talk about other things that you can do, because this one's important, to find out what your audience is struggling with. And I talked about a little bit about this when we were talking earlier. One of the ways that you can do this is by doing those polls. Most of the platforms that you're going to be sharing content on have a way for you to conduct a poll. So, of course, if you're on Facebook or Instagram, then they definitely have ways that you can conduct polls. So, if you're on YouTube using the community page, or now it's called posts, I think is what they've changed the name to, they have a way of doing it. And so, for example, on my community page, sometimes I will do just a straight text post that is a poll. Other times I'll do a picture or an image poll. So the difference is that it's the same type of thing. The only difference is there's an image next to each of the answers. And here's what I find. When I do a poll like that with an image next to it as opposed to straight text, they perform better. They get more responses. So, just kind of keep that in mind if you're using YouTube as your way of actually growing your audience. But if you're doing something on Facebook or Instagram, just make it something that's fun. And here's the other thing I have to say about polls. When you are sharing polls, don't make them real complicated. Okay. So, for example, if you are asking what types of things they'd like to learn, keep them to just a few words. If you're doing something like, let me give you an example. If I said, based upon my content pillars, these are the things I'm considering doing my next week's live stream on. All I would put in is something like digital products as answer A, affiliate marketing as answer B, content creation as answer C, and whatever else. I might just do those three. You see how simple that can be? Because if people have to think too hard, if they have to, read paragraphs of stuff, they're not going to respond. You have to make your poll as simple as possible. And the more simple you can make it, the easier the answers are to read, the more people are likely to respond. So just keep that in mind. Don't make anything real, difficult. People want to be able to click and be on their way to whatever the next piece of content is. All right. Okay. Now, next thing that I want to do is to share with you, a way to hold on one second. A way to get additional content that you can share. And I talk about this a lot, and I think it's overlooked, which is going to the comments section of a larger creator's post. So on their post, oftentimes when someone is a really big creator and they have lots and lots of people that follow them, they'll get a lot of different comments. But realistically, they can't respond to everything. And oftentimes in those comments, people are going to have questions. They're going to say, could you create something about this? Well, I want you to go through those comments of someone in a similar niche as yours, with a similar type of ideal customer, with your notepad, and you're writing down ideas, and you're writing down things that you could create content on because you're knowledgeable about that. So that's another way to do it, because what's happening is people are specifically asking for things, which means we know they're interested. So you go and create content around that. All I'm saying to you is that content creation is extremely necessary, but it doesn't have to be difficult. And you don't have to, in the course of a year, with 365 days, you do not have to create 365 pieces of content. That's just not how it works. That's working way too hard. You're going to create some really good pieces of content. You're going to repurpose them. You're going to reuse them. I'll tell you, just from my perspective of things that I will sometimes do, is I'll take a piece of content that performed well. I'll reword the caption, maybe change the color of it, and post it. most of the time, I don't even change the color of it. I'll just reword the caption and post it. Sometimes I will use the exact same caption and use one of my other brand colors in the actual post that I'm doing because I tend to do a lot of image based posts. So, for example, I could probably show you my screen and let me see if I can get over to my YouTube community page and then share my screen here just so you could see what it is that I'm looking at. But what I want you to see is that let's see here. Okay, let me just share my screen. I think you should be able to see it. Okay. All right. So here's my community post page. So, for example, what do I need to start a YouTube channel? And you see, this has like this reddish fuchsia kind of color. Sometimes, if I'm just reposting this at a later time, I will change this to like a purple color. Okay. Like here's an example of something where I've used one of my other brand colors with this purple. I can promise you this exact same post has been shared with this same wording on a background with this color. Okay. And you'd be amazed at how you don't have to make this stuff that difficult. Just, change it up in such a way that, it's fresh, it's new. And again, sometimes I just repost the exact same thing. Okay. So just know that those are definitely things that you can do in order to make all of this stuff a little easier on you, but you're still connecting with your audience. So let's go ahead and just do a little bit of recap here. So I'm getting to the end. So again, if you have any questions, drop those in so I can see those. Now, the first thing that I want to do is to make sure that you always have a focus on both going out after new people, but at the same time, you also have to engage your existing audience because those are the people that have already raised their hand and said, I want to be part of your audience. So make sure that you're doing both, bringing new people in and re-engaging. And oftentimes you can do the same thing. You can meet both of those goals with the exact same content. Okay. Now, another thing, and let me show you a way that it would be directed solely toward new people. You might have a post that says, hey, lots of new people have come into my audience. Let me introduce myself. And you could share a quick post on yourself. Well, your existing audience already knows who you are. So that one's not really so much geared toward them, but it's definitely geared toward new people. So that gives you an example of the difference between, something that is solely geared toward new people versus your existing audience. Another thing is to make sure that you are not just building on social media alone, but that you are also getting people onto your email list. Let me give you another reason why you want to make sure that you are building the email list. Remember, you do not own these social media platforms. So if for some reason they were to decide that they're going to shut you down, or if the entire platform were to get shut down, you don't want to lose contact with all those people that you have taken the time to bring into your world. So the best thing for you to do is to get them onto the platform by posting content and then let them know that you have a lead magnet. And what that lead magnet is going to do is to move them from the platform, not saying that they will leave the platform, but they now have another way to connect with you, and that's going to be with your email list. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're going through this. All right. Let's see here. Zay says, I've thought about giving free classes to communities. That will work as well. The way I would do it is I would set up a landing page. I would let them know that I'm offering a free masterclass and simply collect their email addresses, maybe their first name, let them know what time and date is going to happen, and then that moves them off of the platform onto your email list. But what I want you to remember, Zay, is when you do that, make sure that you are in fact communicating with them on a regular basis. Okay, so once you get them on that email list, don't let that email list collect that digital dust that I talked about. Connect with them, communicate with them, share things that are going to be helpful to them. So make sure that after the master class is conducted, that you also send them a link to the replay, for example, because oftentimes people will sign up for a class, but they're not able to attend it live, but they will watch the replay. I can't tell you how many people are not necessarily on my live streams, but they're watching the replay. And a lot of times that just has to do with convenience. You know, a lot of people are at work at noon on Eastern time. But if you decide that you're going to do your master class, let's say, and it's going to be at 7 p.m. or whatever time that you pick, well, the same thing's going to happen. Some people are not going to be able to attend, but they definitely want the information. So you need to send out the information that has the replay. Okay. So I think that's a great idea in terms of sharing the information. Now, what I want you to do again is when you do create that class or share it, I want you to focus on, one class or one topic for each class. So if you're going to do one class that you could replay over and over again, then make sure it's just focused on one topic. So you're essentially solving one problem with, each of your lead magnets that you're going to be creating. And what I would also say to you is, unless you just want to do this, I would take that master class that you're going to create and then upload it to a place where it can be made on demand, if you will, which means you can continue to encourage people to watch it. They just will be watching a replay of it because the information is still going to be good. Okay. And if you decide at a later time you want to re record it, you can always do that. If you decide that you want to record something different, you can do that as well. So I think that's a fantastic idea to do that. And that would make an incredible lead magnet as well. All right. So, another thing I want you to do, I forgot to mention this, I think, as I was going through my notes, is another thing I want you to do when you are thinking about creating content, and content that will perform really well, is I want you to answer simple questions. Questions that to you, you're going to say, well, everybody knows that. I don't need to make any content around that. No, everybody doesn't know it. And remember, people that are beginners, which that's going to make up the vast majority of your audience in most cases, people that are beginners, they don't know it. So sometimes you have to step back and write down the things that you know for a fact you were struggling with when you were brand new, and just make a piece of content for each of those simple questions or basic questions. And you'll be surprised at how well that type of content performs. So don't overlook that content and think it's just too simple and no one will be interested in it. All right. And then remember to make sure that you find out what they're struggling with. Ask them to respond to your emails, tell you what they're struggling with, or respond in the comments, telling you what they're struggling with, because that can be great opportunity to get some additional pieces of content that you could create that will benefit not just them, but others as well. All right. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do this week to get going on your strategy. One, I want you to pick one of the ideas that we talked about and implement it this week. Get it done as soon as possible, because you have to get to a point where you're creating content on a regular basis without overthinking things. Just even if you think it's too basic, post it anyway. If you think it's not good enough, post it anyway, because you're probably being overly critical of something that could be very beneficial to someone else. All right. And then by all means, if you have any questions, you can always feel free to drop them in the comments section. I'll read those after we're done. And if it's a specific message, I do have Facebook and Instagram. You can send me a DM and I can get it that way as well. All right. So, your content strategy is going to be the catalyst that's going to help you bring people in, re engage existing people, and get people onto your email list. And then remember, because we're talking fourth quarter starting next month, you should be working on your digital product or whatever it is you're going to be creating. Because when Black Friday and Cyber Monday and all of those things roll around, you want to have something that you can offer to people at a price so you can start making money. And then also remember that people are going to be completely re engaged again, oftentimes at the very beginning of the year, because they want to make sure that the next year is better than this year. So, they're looking for ways to make more money, they're looking for ways to lose weight, they're looking for ways to, overall just have a better year. So just think of it that way. So this is kind of like our starting point for everything. And I really want you to get focused in on it. And I think you'll be surprised at what you can do and accomplish if you get it done starting right now. All right. So I always like to in my live streams with just a little bit of mindset training because I think it's important. And I know I'm probably talking to maybe it's not you, but there might be somebody that you know and you can pass this on to them. And oftentimes we discount what we know. We discount the fact that people want to learn from us. We discount the fact that, our content is not good enough. We discount the fact that, our products won't be good enough. No, oftentimes you're going to find that it's not necessarily when you see somebody who's doing really big numbers and selling things, oftentimes if you're in that same niche, you could create the exact same type of content and people would buy from you. Sometimes it's just they have a better marketing strategy than you, not necessarily that their product is better than yours. So we have to get out of our own heads and we have to start, putting things out into the world that could help other people because you might be the one link that's going to help somebody who's struggling with what exactly what it is you know how to do. So you have to stop, being overly critical of your material. You have to stop thinking it's not good enough. What I want you to think in terms of is creating, minimally viable products. Get them out there, get them out into the world. And what you can always do is you can offer them to people in your audience for a discounted rate and ask them for their feedback in return. Ask them, what it is that, they were able to learn from it. Ask them what you could do better. But the point is, get it out there. You have to get past that fear of thinking it might not be good enough because I'll tell you that you're going to be rewarded by the speed of getting things to market. You can always make it better. You can always have a version 2. You can always have a version 3, but you have to start somewhere. And what I can't tell you enough is that your content is good enough. If you have learned how to solve a problem, if you know how to do something, all you have to do is be willing to put it out there. Don't let your accent be an issue. Don't let, the fact that you don't feel like you've got the best equipment be an issue. Just get it done. I mean, all the excuses that you might be able to come up with in your brain, trust me, somebody else has the exact same excuses, but they pushed forward. They were willing to believe in themselves a little bit. And here's the last thing I'll say to you. Sometimes that's what we're lacking. It's belief in ourselves. But here's what I want you to know. I believe in you. And sometimes you have to borrow other people's belief in you until you can develop your own belief system, until you can feel confident that what you're able to do is going to be worthy and that people are going to enjoy it. And trust me, all of us who are out playing in these internet streets, as I like to say, we all have, those same fears. The difference is we didn't let them hold us back. we went forward with them. And when we made mistakes, we corrected them, we corrected course, and we went forward. And that's what you're going to have to do. If you really want to succeed, if you've decided that you have something you want to share, something you want to teach, something that you know how to do that, is going to be helpful to someone else, you have to be willing to go all in and go for it. And I think you'll be surprised that the more you do it, that there are going to be people out there that are going to be receiving what you are teaching in the exact way that you intended for them to. You're also going to find that there is somebody who wants to learn exactly from you. You're going to find that there's someone that's going to be like, where have you been? I've been looking to learn from someone like you. I've been looking to, have somebody who teaches in this fashion teach me, and that person is you. Thank you for what you're doing. I trust and believe it is going to actually happen to you. So let's see here. All right, great. Thank you so much. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much. And kindly share the video that you were showing the equipment for recording. Okay, I will put that out there. Are you referring to a live stream that I did? Let me know whether or not that's what you're referring to. If not, I also have, excuse me. I also have my Amazon store, which I'll link that below, which has all of the equipment that I use to record. I just picked up a new piece that I'm excited about, and I'm getting ready to start recording not only a new master class that will act as a lead magnet, but also my entire course that I'm going to be sharing for fourth quarter. So I'm excited about all of that in case you need that. But let me know what it is that you were looking for, if it was a video or if the link to the Amazon store with all of my video and live streaming equipment will work for you. Okay. All right. And remember, I always say, share this with your business bestie. If there's somebody that is also building a business and this information could be beneficial to them, ask them to join you on Wednesdays, and then you guys could compare notes afterwards and you can move forward together. Also, let them know that, they are welcome in this community of people. We're just building forward to make sure everybody can be beneficial, can be helped, and that this information is beneficial to all of them. All right. So with that being said, I think we are wrapped up for today. As always, I will be back next week, Wednesday at noon Eastern time. And I definitely look forward to hearing from you. I definitely want to hear about your successes. I want to hear if you decided you're jumping into the content game, you're going full force. I want to hear that you started your email list. I want to hear all about that, because there's no reason why you shouldn't, and you cannot let fear stop you from doing it. All right. So let's go ahead and get this wrapped up. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Have a great day.